the sin that kills us. That's going to. Hi, everyone. It's John Birmingham.
Hey, how you doing? Good morning, good evening. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Albob. John Birmingham is in the background, as he always is.
What's going to happen when we die?
He's like,
how bad for some of these human beings, hopefully never us.
Hey there, Jane Pooh.
So we want to make it to heaven. How bad will hell be for some of those people who end up in hell? Because they're very.
How does John know any of this? How does any theologian who speaks like this? You know, this is like
torment,
your basic
some
KKK Southern Baptist
unimaginable
preacher. You know,
one who's going the one who's
working on fear,
suffer the worst, and
hate
hell
and self-loathing.
The devil. He will suffer way worse than anyone because he came up with all the sin that kills us.
Oh, no, we come up with the sin. The Satan did not make the sin. We. Right. We are the deciders. We have a free will. We don't have to have the laundry list of the misery of our life. You know? Right now, I'm,
to try to hurt God,
living like a millionaire on $400. Now I'm out in the woods, and I don't go anywhere. I just write novels and talk to you guys.
In hell for all eternity, he'll suffer unimaginably bad.
People are suffering unimaginably bad right now. You know, people in the Ukraine, people in Darfur, people in Yemen, people in Syria, Libya,
God is beautiful,
Afghanistan. Right? God didn't do any of these. We did.
He created everything that we know. He created everything that we know, and He always was.
So if God created everything that we know, then all that sin, all that thing, God created it. You know, to put forth a worldview of this separation, of this diversion. You know, one of the people going on, these morons are in Egypt right now, and it's probably the nicest place in Egypt, way far away from anybody, so no one can be there with "I hate you" signs. And they can't come to agreement on helping out the people who are suffering. The rich people say, "Oh, I can't help. Yes, I caused all this, but I can't take responsibility for it." You know. I mean, all you have to do is look at, Carrot Head and the Stepford Biden, right? Stepford wife Biden. You know, we have the best legislators money can buy. You know, the Democrats, Republicans are two wings of the same corporate bird, and we have been at war with the world. I mean, that's how it was set up. Our revolution. England didn't want to be the big daddy anymore, so it came in. It couldn't just walk away because it wouldn't look good for them. So they, precipitated a revolution where for a number of years, England won every friggin' battle, period, right? Decisively, because they had the best army in the world. And then they had these, pike German mercenaries that, weren't as nice as the English were, but the English weren't nice. And so war, if you read The Art of War, Lao Tzu basically says, don't do it, because all you're going to get when you have war, there is no real winner, because everyone who fights the war becomes the monster, right? And Ukraine right now is becoming the monster. They're going on about how Russia is attacking, collateral damage, blah, 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 how they invaded, blah, blah, blah. But this is a scripted event. It's the war of the two Vlads, and they're both representing their boss of the unipolar transnational fascist global state. Now, those guys own everything, control everything, but they don't have the control of people's spirit, right? And that's what these wars are about. That's what all of this is about. And they had more money, more power, more everything. But 2012, end of the Mayan calendar. What was that? It was a end of a component part of our existence. We went from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age. Piscean age is getting what you want, what your ego wants, what your illusionary separate modality wants, your fear, your self-loathing, your hate, right? What that wants, and can only get that through violence, right? Whereas the Aquarian age is getting what you need through understanding of your self's motivation and your connection to all our relations. Now here, um, they put a number of roads. I mean, this is a defunct neighborhood, and it was like cut into the side of a mountain back in 1970. And then there was nobody here for 20 years. And then I bought this place, and my little chunk of it anyway, about 20 years ago, around 2003 ish. And um, it's like been living in a garden paradise, nature preserve for 20 years, right? And now, I never thought the rich people would move in. They tried every so often, but I'm 50 miles to the closest Walmart, so we rich people can handle that. So anyway, I want to basically talk about forgiveness. And the first thing we have to forgive is ourselves. So Jane, I would love it if you could give me a call. You got my number. I got the thing on. Yep, it's all charged up. I got some bars. So give me a call and let's talk, Jane, about forgiveness, because I went to my doctor's yesterday. So I'm getting ready to, hit the, go on, let's see, um, the, get out of here for the winter and go to, be on the high wire, not just on the bop, but the high wire, meaning I'm trying to get out of here this week, but I may not. I have no schedule. Whether I stay here for Thanksgiving or go on and be with some other people, it doesn't really matter because the universe will have me go when it's just the right time to go. So it's what it is. But the next week is supposed to be nice weather, good driving weather. I have no idea what the week after that's going to be. New York, Buffalo got 4 feet of snow. Talk about global warming. Uh, they are putting forth this description: global warming. Oh, it's your exhaust from your car and blah 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 and carbon footprint. No, that is true that we have a carbon footprint. Um, and if we didn't cut down all the freaking trees, the trees would have chewed up that. The plants love carbon, right? I went to Brazil in the latter 80s, right? I was there for a year and a half. And I was in this place called Buzios. I built a nightclub, and it was run. You ever see the movie Boys from Brazil? Well, that's Buzios, right? All Nazis, and they have this big hospital that they change people, totally. Not just like not plastic surgery, but they put them in a barrel of goo and pull them out, and there's some, everything, their fingerprints, their DNA is, and that was like in the latter 80s. I mean, there's technology that this global hegemony has that is so beyond belief. A good example is 9/11. I was, an apprentice electrician at IBEW on the South Tower of the World Trade Center. I was really intimate with every floor, of that building, because I put pipe in every floor. Every floor was 4 foot thick of stressed concrete, and it had steel. Every floor was an acre big. There were no columns. The building was supported by the exterior walls. It was called the cage. It was designed to be able to be hit by 2 707s at the same time coming from different, and the airplanes would not be able to get inside the building. They would hit the building, blow up outside, and fall down, right? Because aircraft are like very flimsy thermoses, right? They are not, like tanks. And even if they're going really fast, they're still, paper mache and with wings on it, right? And so Um, and the fuel it has is like kerosene. It's not like super duper, and everything in that building, of all the World Trade Center was like concrete, steel, and asbestos, right? You couldn't burn the things, you couldn't destroy them. The only way you could take those buildings down, and they were controlled demolition because of real estate reasons, right? And if you read a book put out by, it's called Architects and Engineers 9/11 Truth. If you read that, I mean, really scientific, it's architects and engineers saying what happened, right? But the congressional investigation, they have national laboratories, all kinds of great scientific people that could really have told them who was their authority of that. Popular mechanics is what the Congress used as their technical, folk, right? And to have Connie go, "Oh, we had no idea that," whereas, 4 weeks before, the planes hit these buildings, um, everybody in the intelligence says, "Hey, it's lit up. Al Qaeda's going to do this." There's this guy who is the guy who is in charge of looking out for terrorism. He was every meeting that Dick Cheney was in. He said, "We got it. Al Qaeda's going to attack us. It's going to attack us." And Dick Cheney said, "Listen, you say that again, I'll kill you. Shut up. You're fired." Right? I forget the guy's name, but he was a leftover from Bill Clinton. And if you just scratch the surface of any of this stuff, of the Bay of Tonkin in Vietnam, I mean, if you realize that we had been fighting the Vietnam War since 48 with the French, we promised Ho Chi Minh, he was our guy to fight the Japanese. He was educated in Columbia, New York City, in law, and all he wanted was the Pepsi bottle ship dealership, and we said, "Screw you." And so he said, "Okay." And he went off and got his people together who were pissed off with the French. And first he ate the French alive at Dien Bien Phu. But we had been there since 48. And we had spread weapons all over Asia and the Mid East, right? To ferment all of these wars. As Einstein said, if you don't want to have war, don't fight it. Lao Tzu said, don't fight a war. If you have a political end, figure it out politically. Do not have a war, right? And if you're going to have a war, it's all about logistics and not strategy, right? So, um, let's see. Yeah, my phone is on, Jane. Have you tried to call? Anyway, so, and anybody else who's out there, come on, get a hold of the thing here. So we're talking about forgiveness, right? So, we go back to John Boy, and he is talking about sin, and it's all the devil's fault, right?
Everything about the past, present, future, all times. He's omniscient. He knows everything. And he's everything good. He's only good. There's no bad at all.
But he made everything, even the bad he made.
God doesn't punish us. God doesn't punish us. The punishment is from our own sin.
Not our sin.
From our own sin. And when we're on earth, the sin of others may hurt us too. So that's how Jesus died. He was without sin, but the sin of the others killed him. And that's just in this life, which is not very long. What is it going to be, 100 years the most? Our next life is very, very real, and it lasts for an eternity.
No. We're here to learn, to co-create with love. That's what we're here, not to suffer. And if we do suffer, I mean, I suffer a lot. I mean, I went to my doctor, and it was like, I went there because once a year, so I get total I live on $400 a month. So, that's like, I get I live on maybe $6,000 or $7,000 a year, period. Right. And so, so my healthcare, and I had to learn all about healthcare, how it not healthcare itself, but the structure, the institution of it, all that. So I learned how to navigate it, and so I found a place that takes care of me pretty well. But they get stuff from different entities, and so once a year I got to go through a ton of paperwork, just like I have to go through a ton of paperwork once a year, right? And so I have to be patient with the bureaucratic structure, and anyway, so the insurance lady was there, and she had, we went through, dude, do you ever have bad thoughts? Do you ever want to kill yourself? You ever blah blah blah? Do you smoke cigarettes? Blah blah blah. And anyway, no to everything, right? Anyway, we got through, and she goes, I've never seen this. She goes, you don't drink, you don't smoke. Your medical thing says here that you should be dead, but you're alive. It says that you don't even have legs, but you're walking. You got real problems with your heart, but you're walking up, running around on football fields. I don't understand. And she goes, this ain't good for our business. I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, you are this outlier, and when we put in an algorithm, you are going to pull our whole, you know, view, or where we put the 28 million people that this institution kind of gets money from other entities. You're going to pull the whole thing over here, just you. And she goes, I don't know whether to like shred this or put it into the hit enter into the computer algorithm. And so and so anyway, we went on to, and I have things wrong with me that she didn't even she's a person who's been a medical statistical analysis person for 30 years, and I have things wrong with me that she didn't even know. She had to look on my, she went on, into her database. Oh yeah, there it is. Oh, look at that. There's it. But it says you should be dead. And I said, well, go look at my, my medical record. And she looked, you're right. Your endocrinologist says you're the healthiest dead guy he knows. Anyway, it's, so that was my yesterday, right? So, and she goes, so do you have pain? And I say, yeah, well, in the morning I wake up, everything hurts. I meditate, I exercise, and then I'm good to go. So you don't take any medication for your pain? I said, no. She goes, how do you do it? I mean, again, you are going to skew our algorithm ridiculously because you have all, you're documented to have all these things wrong with you. And part of the thing of having all this is like severe pain in all of them. And you should be getting, and I should be on like 40 different drugs, but really I only take two, right? And and because the majority of everything I can control with my diet and exercise, right? And meditation, right? So she goes, you are, it's going to really skew our total algorithm because if everyone who has all these things wrong with them did what you did, then we wouldn't be spending $6 billion over here and making $4 billion profit. She goes, you never had an operation for any of these? I mean, how does you have your legs are mush? How do you walk? I said, through intent. And then I, said, so let me show you. So I had her like meditating, I did a guided meditation, right? So we're going to do a little, let's see what, we're into 18 minutes, right? And Jane's the only one here, 1 minute. Okay. And, I'll wait for Jane, but we're going to do a guided meditation, right? And so, and get Jane and her family, if they're around the phone, they can be the what do you call it? The thing that can give us feedback on the experience, right? And so this lady who was total bureaucrat, total numbers person, which I understand. I was one of those guys, but I was always, me. So, and that's why I was in those things. I wasn't like her. So anyway, I got and she brought somebody who she was teaching to do this. I got them both to meditate. So what should have taken 15 minutes took 40 minutes. And the doctor kept sticking his head in and like looking at me and going like this and coming back out. So anyway, Anyway, I got them to meditate, and I got them into state, and they couldn't believe it because I never did. Even when one person started to cry because I got them to forgive themselves of the things. Oh, there she is. Hey there, sweetie. Are you there? Hello. Are you there? Hello. Are you there? Well, I don't know what happened there. Why don't you try and call back? I'm in a place that, well, I barely have bars, but try again, and we'll see how it goes. So forgiveness is a major dynamic we need to apply, right? We don't want to end up like John Birmingham, right? So I've known John for 10 or 12 years, but I sold him the school about 7 years ago, maybe 8 now. We're going on 8. Maybe, you know, in the springtime it'll be 8. So or we're in the 8th year, right? And so let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Ringtone sound. Ringtone. Stupid thing. Hello? 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 Can you hear me now? Okay. Give it one more shot. It's when it's a really clear day like this, I don't have the best of. I'm like out in the middle of the woods. So I guess the universe doesn't want us. One more try. We'll see how it works. Right. Anyway, so let's say 7 years. I've known John really well. I lived with him for 2.5 years. He threw me out 32 times. Back in 2017 in September was really the last time he threw me out. I went to an amazing party and then hooked up with some really interesting people and had a nice 2 or 3 weeks and please come back, please come back, please come back. So I was ready to move on. Did get through, went to voicemail, which is full, right? One more time, and we'll see what happens. And again, we'll maybe have to next. Okay, next time. So uh, the so I can get on the internet, so that's doing that. But my phone, I'm out in the woods, and sometimes I can get a signal, and sometimes I can't. So it's one of those times I can't. Anyway, so I really haven't been with John since 2017, right? In September, right? So I've been here in the degree, so 17 to 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's 5 years, right? Give or take, maybe 4. And last winter, I was in Roanoke, and after the New Year's, I came and took care of a friend of mine's farm for 2 months. And I basically went to see John, maybe January. She came back around January 15th, and sometime between that and the end of January, I went to visit John. And then we had a gigantic ice storm up there, and then it got ridiculously cold, and I got stuck up there for a month. And so John tried to throw me out the second day I was there after the ice storm. He went out and said, "So you could do it." Woo! He like slid on the ice and he couldn't get up. And he said, "Oh, I guess you can't get out of here." So I stuck around until it got warm, the ice melt, I left, right? But virtually every day he wanted to throw me, "I can't take it, blah, blah, blah. You're costing me money, blah, 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 blah." It's like, please. So, and he said, "Oh, let's go take a road trip." you know. And so John has not changed one iota. And the number one thing he blames everyone under the sun. You know, his ex, his parents, his you name it. Satan, me, you name it. Right? I'm the only guy who's his true friend in that I really care for John. I want him. He has amazing abilities. He has talent. He could do amazing things. He does zip, except the YouTubes he does, right? Which is all, like this, boop, 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 boop. Boop.
It lasts forever, eternity. I'm trying to move this thing off the screen. I don't know what it was. It lasts for an eternity, forever. It's not just 1,000 years. It's 1,000 years, and then it's 1,000,000 years, then it's 1,000,000,000 years, and then it's forever. It never stops, our second life. So how would you want to live with this relatively not very long life that we have, maybe 100 years, 40 years, 80 years? How long are we going to live? It goes pretty quick. When people start getting way older, they're like, wow, that was pretty fast. And,
This is why John is such an amazing canary in the coal mine. He really is a metaphor for the illusion of ego, right? It's as a social scientist, why do you think I put myself through being with John for 3.5, 4 years? Because he was just an amazement every day, right? And I wrote continuously about ideas of my experiences, right? And that's what life's about, is your experiences. So it wasn't trials and tribulations. I mean, I could have been upset. I could have been, you know, and a lot of you would comment, when I became popular on John's channel, doing the stories of the old crone and other stories. Each of those stories I did on John's channel, got 75,000 to 100,000 views, right? Which John got monetized for. But every time he threw me out, he hated, basically what happened. I would do is people, "Oh, wow, this is really great." And they would tell John to shut up. Which is my I should, he wanted to always be the star. Me, not so much. I'm not so interested in being the star. I don't need to be the star. I don't need to be I don't need any kind of outside, qualification of who and what I am. I know who and what I am. And I have lived a life of experience because earlier, very early in my life, by the time I was 6, I realized that, especially when I went back to my parents, I was kind of brought up by by other people, not just my grandma, but by other people. I had lots of mentors in my life, more than my parents. My parents were so busy with their ego and what they, their surface life, that they, wanted to project that, how groovy, a new car every year, blah, blah, blah. And the kids were just like, basically jewelry. Look at, we were always neatly dressed and blah, blah, blah. And that's why I dress the way I do, because I'm a cheeky monkey. Meaning, when I was a little kid, I really was the classiest dresser. I always wore a suit, and you know, I wanted to be like my dad, who wore uniforms, and so, I was neatly dressed. And so, but at a certain point, when I was around 6, my dad tripped over me and looked down. "Who are you?" "I don't know you. You don't belong here. You're not one of us." And I wasn't. It was like straight up, I wasn't one of them. And so, but I loved them, and I was genetically this little avatar was genetically connected to their gene pool because I look just like when I went to Germany and my mom, she's Irish and German, and a little Cherokee and Iroquois. And my mom's German side is Steinbeck. John Steinbeck was my mom's second cousin. And when I was in Germany, I went to Stuttgart where the Steinbecks were, and they were bakers. You know, my mom was a pretty good baker. Not she didn't like to cook, but she liked to bake. She could do some pretty good baking. And so anyway, she made these Kugans that were just amazing. We had apple trees, and I would go, and she would say, just pick up the apples off the ground. Search the bugs away, and just bring me the rotting apples. And she would, take it all and put it in a big pot, you know, cook it up, strain all the crap out, and make that as filling. And she had the flakiest flake crust, and she'd make these Kugans that were just amazing. So, and then fresh cream. So anyway, I Stuttgart went and saw my German family. I looked just like them. So genetically, I got that German. The rest of my brothers and sisters look more Italian. I have dark curly hair and darker skin. Me, I got blue eyes and white skin and blondish brown hair. I look just like those guys. And my body is similar to theirs, meaning they were all stocky people. As my football coach would say, you're big boned, you can play football, you're gonna be a lineman. I don't want to be a lineman, you know. And they forced me to play football. And I wouldn't practice. I would just stand there and watch it or sit on the ground. I wouldn't do anything. And so I would run. I like to run. So when we did wind sprints and stuff like that, I would run, right? So I liked that. And I like the visualization of being a gazelle, right? So I did do that. But other than that, we didn't do it. And so when we played, I remember the first game we played, we played Deerfield, and with this little team, we were only 30 of us, so there was no, you had to play the whole, defense, offense. I was a defense and offense lineman. I never got it. So the first play, right? I see these guys. They had like 150 guys on the team, 25, right? And so um, I say, no, okay. So everyone's doing the jumping jacks. I don't do the jumping jacks. So the game starts, I'm on the line, and I kind of, before the guy whistles, but we're lined up and we're kind of getting in our stance, and I tap on the helmet of the guy in front of me. And I say, listen, I don't want to hit you, and I definitely don't want you to hit me. See that guy over there? He's going to come right through here. And I'm going to step over here. I want you to plant him in the ground. I don't like him. You, I don't know. You might be a nice guy. I might like you. But I'm just gonna step over here, right? And it's gonna be on two. Tell everyone in your line it's on two, right? So, hup, hup. I step away. The guy comes to, bam, and they carry him away. So, okay, next play. It's gonna be over there, right? And tell them it's like I'm free, right? So, and again, I'm just gonna step over here. You want to rush in and cremate the um, quarterback before he hands the ball up, go to it. So I kept doing that and until about the sixth play where we've been pushed all the way back to our thing and fumble and they get the ball and they got a touchdown. And the coach grabs me and starts shaking my head. I got the helmet on and I like take the helmet off so he can't do that. And we're right in front of people, so he can't like beat me up. But he's screaming at me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Listen, from the first day, what did I say? I don't want to play football. I'm gonna do this all fucking day, asshole. I'm gonna try and make sure that Deerfield wins by 1,000-0. You can't do anything about it, motherfucker." And I was like screaming at him because he was screaming at me. So the whole Deerfield school was hearing me call him, profanity, and what's he going to do? Start slugging me in front of all those people? Can't do it, right? So I just said, fuck you. Sit down over there. And I didn't sit down over there. I went into their gym and got in the shower right? Took a nice hot shower, put on my little, suit, and they had tea after this. So they had a little room that had all the sandwiches and the tea already there. And I just started eating away. And the game, it wasn't even, we're not even out of the first quarter, right? So they had nobody really to put in my place. So they had put somebody who really wasn't alignment. And they did lose like 70-0, right? And so that was the end of my football career. So that is me. And it's always been me, right? And you know, I am a cheeky monkey. I'm different than just passive aggressive. I was in a seminary, right? And they um and I had a cardinal as a godfather, so I kind of had a hierarchy. And so you know I went there, and I was a little peon of a guy, and the school was, so they had slavery. The people who worked in the kitchen and fixed things and mowed the lawn, they were indentured servants. They were owned. And when you, as a student, was bad, you got punished by working in the kitchen or working as a waiter or working at the farm with the animals. And I was so bad that, because what happened was I was invisible. See, that's another thing. I'm very good at being invisible. And so I had this, and my friends, we were the IMF, Impossible Mission Force. That TV show had just started, and that was us. We were beyond being nerds. We were like no one quite. I mean, Igo was like Albert Einstein. I mean, he could just do trigonometry in his head, and we were just freshmen in high school, right? This guy was brilliant, and there were a whole bunch of us. Brad, his you know. Um, grandfather was General Bradley, and the Bradley armored vehicle was named after him. And when he was a little kid, he got to the, he was like part of the military industrial complex. So I mean, I had an unbelievable crew, and we didn't have rooms per se. It was like very much like Harry Potter. We had these carols. We had these in the dorm, the freshman dorm, because we're so many freshmen. There were 300 freshmen, right? There was like only 40 seniors, maybe 60 juniors, maybe 120 sophomores, but there were 300 freshmen. And so they squished us into these spaces, and I shared a space with six guys, right? And had a bed, there's like kind of an armoire that gave you semi privacy, but not really. And we all, and that's those six guys. We were all that six guys was the Impossible Mission Force, right? And there was one guy, Greg, and we call him. He had really super red hair and freckles, so we called him Red. And he was a lineage. His father went to that school. His brothers went to that school. So he was like, and he didn't like that. He was really an interesting guy. He didn't like that whole motif of special lineage, right? And so he basically embraced being with us. He didn't say, "Oh, He didn't go sit at the lineage table. He had meals with us, right? And so he then got picked on for not, you know, following the rules of the lineage, right? And so we were playing, and he was a good soccer player, and teaching us all how to play soccer because none of us played soccer, but he was really good. And we were playing out on the green, and it was the freshman building here, and you know the dining hall was underneath it, right? And then the sophomores were over there, juniors up there, and the seniors had this gigantic, beautiful place with their own everything. It was like a country club, right? But the big field between the freshman and the senior is where people played lacrosse and soccer, and you could have 5 or 6 games going at once. It was about 6 acres. This field, beautiful field, flatter than flat, greatly, drainage. It was great, right? So we're playing soccer, and we're not really playing a game. He's teaching us how to dribble and how to kick and head things, and he's being like our coach, right? And so we're doing this, and because lacrosse and soccer were the two kind of games that different groups of students would kind of compete on that green with. We didn't play football because you needed pads and stuff like that. But soccer and lacrosse were the two things that we could play, and they basically had same kind of goals. Anyway, we're kicking the ball around, and the ball goes up onto the senior patio, up there on their thing. And so he kind of goes around up the steps, goes up, and the seniors grab him, beat the ever living snot out of him, and paint him with oil-based paint, spray cans, the school colors. Take all his clothes off, spray him, beat him up, take him down the basement, beat him up, and they sprayed him, beat him up, sprayed him, beat him up for about, 15, 16 hours, right? And then he had a heart attack, and he had to be taken to the hospital, and we never saw him again. And that was it. We went to war. I said to my friends, "That's it. We're going to get those mothers, right?" And the head guy, senior, was this real sick Jesuit, right? He didn't like me because I just was me. I didn't really bend to anyone's whim or will, but I was invisible, so I didn't make any waves, right? But once this happened, so I said, "Listen, if we don't do something, if we don't intimidate those seniors, that's going to be us. They'll pick us off one at a time, and there won't be any of us left. We have to." I was like, Ukraine and Russia. We have to go. We have an existential threat here, right? So basically, I said, "Listen, we outnumber them like 6-1. So we're just gonna, you know, eat. We're gonna find six. We all lived in these cows with six, right? So each cow will attack, and we'll go to the gym. We'll get baseball bats, and we're gonna go sneak into the senior dorm late at night. We will sneak into each of the rooms. We will synchronize our watches, and at like 2 in the morning, we will all, six kids around one bed, hitting the bed, and the guy with baseball bats. That'll be that. We'll put all of those guys in the hospital, right? So we go into the gym. We get baseball bats. 3 in the morning. We all synchronize our watch. We tiptoe into. But there were a lot of guys who were, I don't know. But we did it. Problem was, not everyone synchronized their watches, right? And so this one group of guys who were like, I don't know, basically snuck in and it's time, and they just kind of tapped him and then ran away. And that guy got up and was chasing him, and he pulled the fire thing. So the horn went up, woke up all the seniors. They woke up. Yeah, there was 60 of them, 300 of them, but we were little peanuts. So about 80 kids got thrown out of windows, through windows, like from the second and third floor of the building. So about 60 of us ended up in the hospital. And I was grabbed, and this, Jesuit who didn't like me, and I hadn't done anything that he could. I mean, he made me work in the kitchen. He made me work in the farm. But every time he punished me like that, I said, "Wow, this is great! I love working in the kitchen. I love working in the farm. I love," which would piss him off even more, right? And I did like working in the kitchen. Those people were really great, and I love and so I would have to work in the kitchen and make the food with the kitchen staff, and then I had to wait, and the waiters didn't eat. We had to, eat before, and there had to be waiters for those waiters. They call waiters, and I would have to wait on the waiters. I first have to cook, then work on, wait on the waiters, and then I'd have to wait, and then I'd have to go back in the kitchen and clean up, right? So I had zero free time, right? And so I still got everyone organized to go get the seniors, right? And so I basically, I got blamed. It's just like 9/11. 15 minutes after the first airplane went into it, it's Al Qaeda. It's Bin Laden. We gotta get. Why didn't we talk about Bin Laden before this happened? because he was on our payroll basically to do this so the neocons could change the fucking world. So anyway, I was, the Jesuits' greatest thing because I could be blamed for everything, right? So, and of course, I pretty much did everything. So when we did this, I got grabbed, and the Jesuit who was had his own little apartment in the senior dorm. He had his thugs grab me. They took me to the basement and tied me to the fire pipes and beat me unconscious with 2x4s. Right? And I broke my arm, broke my fingers on this hand, luckily not this hand. And you know, I knew to like protect my head because after that nun killed me in first grade. So I had to, even though I had a cardinal as my guardian angel watching out for me, I always had the other side of the duality of the Catholic Church. These people trying to kill me, these guys are protecting me. These guys want me dead. These guys want me to be a rocket scientist for the Pope. And again, goes right back to John Birmingham's going on about sin and all that crap, right? I was, I was tied up on a fire pipe, on a sprinkler pipe. I was like Jesus. I was like on my own cross, dangling from in air, and they're hitting me with 2x4s, right? And I'm thinking about Jesus, going, I guess this is what he felt like. And all they could do was hit my arms and my legs, and that's why when my diabetes attacked my legs, the leg that got broken and my ankle that got broken by these guys hitting me 2x4s is where my shark leg really got pretty bad. So anyway, I lived through that, and I'm in a hospital. I get one call. I call my dad. He goes, "Get me out of here! They're trying to kill me." And my father said, "Oh, it'll make you stronger. Just tough it out." I mean, he didn't want me around. He had gone through so much agita with my other brother. I was the youngest, and all my other brothers and sisters, when they were teenagers, except for my oldest, she was like always a nun. She wanted to be perfect, right? And so I mean, not she, but my other brothers and sisters, I won't do it. And my dad's a colonel, he's just used to giving orders. Me, early on, when he stumbled upon me and said, "Oh, who are you? You don't belong here." I realized the best thing to do with my dad was, stay out of his way. Don't let him trip over me again. And whenever there was any kind of thing, whenever he said, "Go do this," I would say, instead of, "No, I'm not going to do that," I would say, "Yes, sir. Right away, sir. I'll be right." And the first time when I came back after he tripped over me, and then he started just screaming orders, I would say, "Why?" No one ever said, in the Air Force, no, when he gave an order, no one ever said why, and I just said why, and because I said so. But why? Because I'm in charge. Why? Because if you don't do what I say, I'm going to beat you up. Why? I didn't say anything, but why? So at one point, so he took the threat was always to take off his belt, and they called it the black snake, and beat you with the belt and the buckle, right? But he never did that. He was a pushover. He was a pussy. And so basically, I frustrated him so much, he takes the belt off his pants, and he's screaming at me, and his pants fall down along with his underpants. And how he's a big, strong football star, colonel in the Air Force, and his penis is about that big. And he goes, "Ah!" And he leans down. He's always had an issue with, you know, controlling his colon. And he bends over and he farts, and a fire hose of diarrhea flies through the air and coats all of my brothers and sisters who are behind him, kind of having Freudenscheid over me being threatened. And I'm just standing there looking at this whole thing, going, "Really?" And then the phone rings, and my mom's sitting over there smoking a cigarette, drinking a cocktail. "Hey, somebody has that fucking phone." And my dad's like trying to clean up the diarrhea off his ass and off the carpet. And he's not worrying about my brothers and sisters. And so I pick up the phone. It's my grandma. She goes, "Are you all right?" "Yes, Grandma, I'm fine." I had the feeling that you were being attacked by a snake. I mean, she was kind of very sensitive. I said, "No, no." She goes, "Well, I'm heading right there with the cardinal. We got to take you away. You can't, it's not time for you to be there." And they were right. So I went back to Grandma's. Right? And so I needed to be coached a little more about how to deal with my family, which, I was with my grandma for another few months. And then I went back and it was, I knew to say, yes, sir, right away, sir. And then go up to whatever the heck I wanted because he never checked up on anything, right? My grandma gave me a lot of, say, if this happens, do this, you're done, remove, but I'm busy, right? And my cardinal said, if you ever really get in trouble, give me a call. I'll be right there, right? So, okay. So, from, 8 until when I went to first grade, I guess around 8 or 9, and I got murdered by a nun. Then it was taken again away from my family and put in this sanctuary of Marinols in Garden City. And I had 2 years where, I couldn't speak. I barely could breathe. I couldn't see out of this eye, couldn't hear out of this ear. And they kind of stuck me back together. And instead of saying, "Oh, you're handicapped," they said, "No, you have been made better. This eye, yes, doesn't work like this eye, but it does other things that this eye does, and we're going to train you how to use this." No longer, humans have, horses have blinders because their eyes are so big they can see everything. It freaks them out. We have other senses, the 6 and above, and we have blinders on us, so we don't notice the stuff that's going on the peripheral. Well, this eye sees it all, right? So they train me how to use it as a tool, right? This ear. I mean, if I want to hear and understand what you're saying, I always kind of put this ear towards who's ever talking to me, right? This ear is like radar, meaning this is, Doppler radar. I can hear things that, first of all, I can hear things. I can hear that. When people are whispering, I can hear that, right? When they're talking, can't hear it. When they are like half a mile away, I can hear them and I can tell you exactly where they are, right? So, and my voice, I'm talking, you hear me talking to you, but often you hear me kind of slur a word or, maybe almost start to stutter, right? Well, for a year and a half, I couldn't talk at all. And then for another half a year, I didn't, once I could talk, I didn't talk, right? I just listened. And then when they started getting me to talk, I stuttered severely, right? And so they showed me how not to stutter. And what they did, they said, well, your brain is like a computer slash tape recorder. You remember everything. So someone's talking to you, it goes in the computer, then you put it on a tape of what you're going to say and you play back the tape. And that's why I can talk to you the way I do, because I've already thought about what I'm going to say. And it's not like a script, but it is a flow, right? The stream of consciousness, which is my tape, right? And there are certain words that I haven't put on the tape, so I'll get to them and I'll go, "Oh, what is that one? I'll remember it." And that's that issue. I've always kind of had it. It's not, it gets, and I was talking to somebody who had a spouse that they were scared that they were having Alzheimer's and dementia. I said, no, no, no. What it is, it's part of our brain that keeps the stuff that just happened this second. Where did you put your keys? What did you last say? Da, 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 right? And basically, that gets used a lot, so it gets worn away, right? And so people who can't remember that thing that just happened, that's all it is. It's a part of that memory thing loop that's been overused and kind of worn away. And so that is that story. So anyway, back to it was called Canterbury School in New Milford, Connecticut, right? The Harvard of Catholic boys' schools. It's like because in that school you're either going to be a Catholic priest or you're going to be a businessman or you're going to be a military, a Catholic general, right? So if you're going to be a Catholic priest, you wear cassock on the black robe, and which I love because I never had to wear any clothes or anything underneath. I just wore this black robe around all the time, right? And I had some really great thermals. So when it got cold, I just put the thermals on and throw the black robe on, and I had a little coat that I would wear with a hood. And but if you were a businessman, you had to wear a three-piece suit, and if you were military guy, you had to wear a uniform, and that was the the structure they had there, and nothing in between, right? No artists, no scientists, no, either a priest. Now you could be a priest like me. I was going to be a rocket scientist for the Pope, and so my teachings were basically, science, right? And I had to take, and I couldn't read out loud, and they made us read out loud. And I read Dickens, and so the teacher made me, stand, made us all, you read, you read. And when it's mine, I couldn't read out loud. I just stutter, right? But I've already read all the Dickens, so I would just tell the story. And he goes, but you're not reading. I said, but I'm proving that I did read it because I'm telling you the story. Gave all the characters, all of this. We could have read the Cliff Notes. He was a total jerk. He was one of those Jesuits, right? He was a scholastic, right? So I would do shit like that. That would just infuriate um, the, definitely the Jesuits and the Franciscans, but the Marinols and the other guys who were more humanistic, they liked me. So anyway, like my computer science guy, and he was English, and he was a boyfriend of Turing's. They were both at Bletchley Park, and so I mean, in 1963, he told me all about Y2K. Right? He said, when we started this, we had to have a time base for the software, and so there was no real memory. So we just put that clock up to the year 2000. So the year 2000, there's going to be an issue, but by that time, they'll figure it out. And so, and they did. It was just really a scam, Y2K. So, getting us ready for the pandemic and the wars and and 9/11 and all that. Y2K was just, softening us. It was like meat tenderizer. And so, anyway, there I am, and I'm working in uh, the kitchen, and I'm working in the farm, and I get to, I come from New York City. I never saw really, the only animals I saw were like dogs and rats, right? So, and I was a real dog boy. And I knew animals because my parents always had a house in Long Island too. So I mean, when we were kids, we were in Long Island. My grandma was in both. She had a place in Long Island too, near my the same town, Freeport, Long Island. Um, that my dad was a football hero. He was on the front page of the sports page of the New York Post, the Herald Tribune, New York Times, and he was called Death in the Afternoon, right? So, and in those days, in the 20s, high school and college football was more popular than professional. That was a joke, right? So anyway, uh, I'm in this the Canterbury School for Boys, right? And I'm being I'm a thing of being a priest. So I when I was with the Marinols after the nun killed me when I was like 8, 9, um, I learned Latin and Greek. You know, I was studying Sumerian, right? And that's why I have the worldview that I have, because I spent 2.5 years with these amazing scholars, not priests, scholars. And they had nuns and priests together as a community, you know, not I mean, they had separate parts. They, they all had little apartments, but so it was amazing. We all ate together. We all cooked together. They didn't have a staff. These people were high. I mean, they all had lots of PhDs. I've been hanging out with people that had more degrees than a thermometer. And so, you know, that's one of my jokes is I have more degrees than a thermometer. I never matriculated. Now, I went to schools working on research projects, and I would take classes because I was, being there under working with these professors, and I would go through their classes, and they would, there were a number of schools that they kind of put me in there. I was kind of matriculating for that month or 2 or 6 months that I was there, and I would get, I would say, literature or a documentation of all of this stuff, and Anyway, so um, and I would, as my career as a scholar went, you know, through that, I got to a place where the people I work for would say, they would look at this and say, if you put all this together, you have like a PhD, or you have lots of PhDs. And I got 2 degrees because I was working on projects where my boss needed me to have a master's in this, or at least a bachelor's in that, to have the authority to represent them, right? So he would just take a you know thing, sign it, fill it out. Now, that's how I got my MSW. I mean, yes, I took a lot of courses at Chapel Hill and Greens, UNCG and UNCA and Chapel Hill and at Duke. So I did have a lineage. But anyway. So there I am in this prep school, and there I am as like Che Guevara, and that's really after that thing with the seniors. That's kind of how I was being put up there. And the guy who is, what was his name? Sheehan, yeah, the guy who was the headmaster. I think it was Sheehan, and he liked me. And the guy who was the head of the football coach, who was like the most quote unquote powerful slash, other than Dr. Sheehan, he was the second in command. He liked me too, and I couldn't spell, I could barely see. So he was a guy who kind of said, you have learning disabilities, but they don't seem to be a disability. They seem to be a positive, So it was like, yeah, I, that's how I was taught. And then he started to talk to those guys, the Marinols in Garden City, and got to 411 on me. So those two guys and my advanced math and physics teachers, they were always, watching out for me, right? And so, but the Jesuits and Franciscans just wanted to murder me. I mean, it's like a blood sacrifice, right? So I really had to watch. So this one real sick Jesuit had polio, right? And he was my arch enemy. He's the guy who had his thugs beat me up with 2x4s and left me hanging on the sprinkler pipes. And so he had polio and he had these crutches. And the whole school is like Hogwarts. It's all stone and marble, right? And so there's staircases everywhere, right? So he's going, so he has upper body strength like you can't believe, but his legs are like spaghetti noodles, right? So he has to drag himself around. So he goes, there are no elevators, so he goes up and down the stairs pretty good with his canes. And I would sneak into his apartment and cut all his canes with a diamond saw and then put them together and then kind of shellacked them so you couldn't see where the cut was. And as long as he was walking on a flat plane, those sticks would work fine. But when he went up a staircase, because the physics of it, he was putting 20 times more stress lifting himself up those steps. So he'd get in the middle of a staircase and they'd snap and I did it to him 12 times. Right. So he was like a kind of gunshot. So it was a war between him punishing me in the worst of ways and I doing stuff like that. And I would do things like they built a whole, they got a chunk of change and they built a big science building and they built another dormitory and they built a better gymnasium, right? And built another football field, right? And so when they were building the buildings, so by that time I was, I was like an apprentice, IBEW local 3 electrician during the summer with Grandpa Stahl. And so, I was a good electrician. So, I forget the name of the company, but it starts with an S. It was like the big, time, the clocks, bells, that kind of Sperry or somebody like that. Anyway, so they were wiring all of that up, and I would go to where they had their little engineering thing and look at the blueprints and talk to them about, so what's this for doing and how you done, They go, boy, kid, I said, yeah, well, I'm in local 3. Local, I showed them my apprentice card. Wow. Anyway, so these guys, we became buds, and so I learned everything about the bell system, right? And the main clock that made the bells, go off, right? So they're doing that, and it's like getting to be around this time, right? We hadn't had our first snowfall yet. It was like we hadn't gone home for Thanksgiving, or we had just come back from Thanksgiving. That was probably it. And there's just going to be 2 weeks before Christmas, and these guys are finishing up. And so I decide that I am going to do, make this little gizmo, and I'm going to put it in the line of these bells, and it's going to be separate, not where they can find it. So I dig a hole in the ground because I know where the wire is going from this new building to this new building. And I dig up the hole, I put a little device in there, and it has a clock, right? And it was like electronic clock, right? Not just you wind it up kind of clock. And it had a car battery, right? So I put it in there, and I made it. I made the device, before we went home for Christmas, and put it in just before because we didn't have any snow yet. I buried it in the woods where the line was, and they kind of dug up there. So I just dug it up, put the down 2 feet, cut the wire. The thing hadn't been turned on yet. I put everything together, put it right. The box is all sealed from the weather. I fill up the hole, kind of scratch it so you can't see that I just dug it up, and it looks just like the rest of the forest. So, okay. Go home for Christmas, come back, and the device did not turn itself on till, after we came back, like January 5th, it turned itself on. And then the bells went off. We were there 2 days, and the bells went off for an hour at 3 a.m. for the whole school, every dormitory, every building, because that's how, we were like Pavlov's dog. The bells would ring at 5 in the morning to wake us up to go to church. At 6 a.m. it would ring again for us to go back and get ready to go to school. At 6:30, they'd ring to have breakfast. At 7, it would ring to go back up and prepare to go to class. 7:30 would ring to go to your first class, and we're just all day. There were about 20 bells all day long, right? And so I had this thing go off for an hour at 3 a.m., right? And it did it for 3.5 months until the battery kind of died out. And they never found it. But every night at 3 a.m. for an hour, the bells would go off, right? And every day I wake up, everyone, they couldn't sleep because these bells were annoying, and every building just would go. I mean, and so and the last hurrah was just before the battery went out. It set the fire alarms in all the buildings to go off, and it went off for 6 hours until the battery died. And they never found, they brought in the Sperry guys to look at everything. They couldn't figure out why this was happening. They took everything apart. They, went through every circuit. They couldn't figure it out because, and, they'd have to wait till 3 in the morning when the thing, and they still couldn't find the device while it's being done from an outside source. We don't know what it is, but everyone knew I did it, and they would and this guy tried to waterboard me to, say that I didn't, I just kind of smiled at him, and gurgled away. So as the spring came, I'm working in the kitchen, and I realized that these people are basically owned slaves by the Catholic Church. So I said, we need to have a union, right? So I organized them. And so when Parents Weekend came, we, about 3-4 days before it, instead of painting everything and mowing the lawn and making sure all the flowers were growing, everyone went on strike, right? And then, but like slow strike, not like we're really making a lot of noise, but we're just not doing the job. We're kind of doing the job, but we're not doing it, right? And so, yeah, we're out there pretending that we're making flower gardens, but we're not doing it, making it look worse, right? And so by the time the parents come, the place looks like a shithole. And so we're supposed to have this big fancy dinner. I made like miles of paper chains, and we chained ourselves, and we were wearing diapers, and we were pretending to be slaves, and had signs: "We're slaves, indentured servants. The school owns us. We get paid nothing. Our children are born into slavery," and all the parents are seeing this, and the Jesuit guy who hates my guts, who wants to kill me, he's like, anyway. So all those people got their freedom. So, um, I so I constantly put myself in a position where I couldn't get murdered. I was always around people that were there were always witnesses, right? So I didn't quite, after getting, put in a hospital by being beaten up by 2x4s and left bleeding, unconscious, tied. That's why my shoulders, dislocated both my shoulders and broke this one. And and that's why my wrists, I mean, yes, I spent 50 years being an electrician, and that wore me out, being on ladders and crawling around in places and stuff. But the real thing that gave me the charcoal legs and the arthritis and all that was, being beaten by that guy and the nun. And so, but instead of like going, "Oh, boo hoo, boo hoo," no, it gave me this experience that I did better. It gave me insights to all kinds of things, and most people have no insights. I have, like John, he has no insight. He just complains, right? He says, "Oh, the world is against me." No, you know, he should really feel what the world when it's against you, right? When people are actually trying to kill you, right? And so that taught me that you can't fight City Hall, period. Meaning, up until I was a freshman in high school, I never even thought about it. I was like in my own private Idaho. I was like communing with electricity and saints and spirits and God and Jesus, and I was a lucky bastard. And the things that were most people would seem as like traumatic experiences, mean that none. She just picked me up, and bam, and that first hit knocked me out. I was gone for almost a week until I came to in a Catholic hospital, and my head was in a cast, and I couldn't move, and my jaw was wired shut. I couldn't see, and I could hear in this ear, but nothing. I just heard a ringing sound in this ear, and in this one, but then I heard them whispering, and she goes, "Well, his head is, once the swelling goes down, he's scheduled for lobotomy." I'm going, I know what a lobotomy is. I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a lobotomy. And and that's when Dr. Black kicked the door in, picked me up, and took me to Cardinal Cushing's at St. Patrick's. And then I spent 6 months there, getting. Then he sent me to the Marinos. So yes, I had maybe 20 seconds of bam. I had no real trauma from that. I mean, I felt nothing. There's no real anything. And then when I came to, I still didn't feel anything. I just like my head was in a cast, and I couldn't see anything, could barely hear stuff. But you know, and then within an hour, uh, I was picked up and taken to a really beautiful place. St. Patrick's. It was in Cardinal Cushing's apartment. And that you think the Waldorf Astoria is fancy? Boy, you should have seen the Cardinals' apartment. Unfriggin' believable. And then, within 6 weeks, I was in this garden paradise in Garden City, being with the most unbelievably brilliant, kind, sweet people who all gave me unconditional love. So I've had some pretty interesting, horrific, violent things happen to me, but they were never quite. I mean, they were traumatic, yes, but I was always looked after to not be hurt or destroyed by that trauma. It just made me kind of stronger, and that's what our lives are about. It's not sin. What is about is being, you know. John thinks about, oh, I want to masturbate and think about whatever gets him hot, horny, whatever. I have no idea what that is, because he used to break into my room early in the morning and try to videotape me. And after the second time, I got just tired of it. I sleep in the nude, so I could hear him out there getting ready, and I would just, throw the sheets off of me and start masturbating. And he would come in with his camera running, and and he'd run away. Well, you would think if that upset him, that he wouldn't do it over and over and over again. Maybe he was just watching those videos that he was making and getting himself excited over that. But he thinks of that as sin. No, it's called hormones. Our sexual dynamics are more to do with our chemistry than our spirituality. And I'm so old, I don't really have any testosterone left. And so but I still like intimacy. That's what I like. And I still have relationships, but it's not like I was when I was 21 or 16 or 18 or in those wild and crazy days. No, because I went for it. When I was 16, well, when I went to that, so I went to that seminary, right? And one of the things that started it off was, so they had all of these traditions at Canterbury, and one of them was the big burly seniors who were in varsity sports. They would have the big game on Saturday, and they would have these teas and dances with 3 or 4 girls' Catholic schools, right? And the girls would get on a bus, and they would show up in the afternoon, and us freshmen would escort them, meet them at the bus. They put them on our arm, and we'd bring them to the game, and the girls could huff excitedly over the big burly seniors who they were going to, you know, we would hand them over to the guy, right? And so I, assigned to come to this thing. I go, okay. So I show up, and I'm with my few, I go and a few other guys, and we're these little shrimps of kids. Igo and I were really. I was a little taller than Igo. I was starting to, get tall. I was past 5'5", right? But Igo, he was like 4'2". Anyway, so Gina Riley, she gets off, and she is just a sex goddess. All these other girls are like in their uniforms. Hers is like open, she's like, you know, like that, right? And her daddy is a rich guy, and he's on the board of the school, of Canterbury, and on the board of the girls' school. And she's a wild child, so that's why she's in a nunnery. Anyway, she's on my arm, and she keeps looking at me. She goes, "You're cute. I like you." I mean, right on the bat, I like you. Anyway, we're walking. The guy who he's the captain of the hockey team, and so we're walking over to watch, and it's cold, and I'm like, "Brr, brr, brr," and she goes, "I don't want to see this. I don't want to. I got this short skirt. The wind's going up to my hoo hoo. Would you like to see my hoo hoo?" And I go, "Hoo hoo?" She goes, "Yes." She goes, I know this campus like the back of my hand because I've been here since I was a little girl. I know every little secret place. Have you ever been up in the church? I'm in Bell apartment. I said, "Bell apartment?" And she goes, "Yeah, the Bell apartment. Let me show you." So we go to the church. It's open. We go up there. We go into where they have this elevated thing where the organ is and the people sing up there, but we really don't have that. And they built that back in the 1890s, but we don't quite use that. Then there's kind of right where the organ is, there is a door. This is a pipe organ, right? So there's a door that goes into the pipe organ, and there's all this gizmos, pumps and pipes and but there's this hallway through all of this stuff, and behind it there's a door. We go in. There's an apartment back there. I mean, a nice bed and a bathroom, and this is where the organist lived, I guess. Anyway, nice, warm. The heat, all the heat in the whole church is going up to this place and keeping it toasty. It's like 70 to 12 degrees outside. So anyway, she goes, "Here," she sits down a bit. Like to sit down next to me, and then she just starts undressing me and undressing herself. Do you ever touch one of these? And puts my hand over there, and I'm just like, And so she kept saying, "You're just so sweet," and she started kissing me and nibbling on me, and not really, we're not having sex. We're just, playing. We're like two kitties. We're just like two cats, just having a good time, right? And we're rolling around, and and she's like having me feel this and showing me what her hoo hoo is, and seeing my dingaling, and you got a nice big one, yeah. And no one's ever talked to me. Or I mean, I had some friends in grammar school. I had a cadre in that, and four. We had eight of no, nine, 10 of us, and four were girls, and they were the meanest badass kids in our whole school. You know, um, Debbie Soul's father was a mobster. You know. And she could kick anyone's ass. Kim Romano's father was a steel worker, and she was like Polish, but she was like I mean, she was dating the football coach when we were in the 7th grade. I mean, she developed early, and she was like a movie star. She was gorgeous. All four of those girls were the prettiest girls, but like us, we were outsiders. Well, 10 of us, there were all these cliques, and we didn't fit into any of those cliques. So we called we were the gang, we were the crew, we were the cadre. Anyway, so Gina Riley's just having a good old time with me, and then she goes, "Let me see where let me see your Carol." So, my clothes are like, all over the place, and so we go downstairs, and we go across the green, and everyone's at the hockey game. There's nobody on campus, so we go over to my little Carol, and here's my little cubby, and where my bed is. She sits down on the bed and she pats me. So I'm over there, and half of the guys who were in my little Carol, the other six, about four of them didn't have a girl to escort, right? So they were doing something. They were in the common room, right? And so Gina again gets a little frisky. So she's got, in forms of semi undress, her body parts are all over the place. And she's rolling around with me in my little bed. It's not quite as comfortable, but her real intent was she knew this place, and she knew that there was no private, I mean, in that, Oregon apartment, nobody even knew it existed. There was a lot of privacy in that, but not so much in the freshman dorm in my little Carol there, right? So she's like having a good old time with me, and my friends kind of come in to get something, and they're like, and I kind of, after about 10 minutes or so of being distracted by Gina, I kind of look, and there's like four of my buddies, just like, she's, she's doing it on purpose. I mean, Gina was just one fun girl, right? Anyway, so like I said, I had these young, they were my comrades, and when 7th and 8th grade, we all experimented with sex with each other, but it wasn't sex. It was just puppy love, or not even that, because we were a cadre. I'll show you mine if you show me yours, but not Gina. No, she was like a senior. I was a freshman. She was an experienced woman, having her way with this cute little guy, right? So anyway, she, you know, that happens, and the guys kind of, she goes, "Boys, you want to see that?" And they kind of freaked out and ran away. And so she goes, "Well, it's getting that time. We need to go to the tea." And so she's like putting herself away. And two of the guys who were part of that, they were like the Blues Brothers. And they were these two white boys who didn't wear the uniform. They always wore black. They looked like the Blues Brothers, right? And they were two reincarnated black men who were blues musicians. And so they're going to play for the tea, right? So I take Gina, right? And I don't, we're already late, meaning I was supposed to bring her over to the gym, and like turn her over to the guy after he comes out of the whatchamacallit, all showered and smelling of testosterone. And no, we show up at the tea where everyone's already there, and people are just kind of not talking to each other. And my friends are just playing kind of background elevator music. And Gina drags me up in front of them, where you could dance, and she looks at them, and they just start playing the most horny blues music you could, slow and humping, right? And so she basically humps me, for a good 40 minutes before dinner starts. Now I'm supposed to be working in the kitchen. I'm not in the kitchen. I'm supposed to wait on the waiters, but I'm not waiting on the waiters. I'm supposed to wait, but I'm not waiting. So, dinner is called. We go there, and you know, we, you know, she drags me into the dining room and has me, So the guy she's supposed to be with, she is totally ignoring, and he huffs away, just boom, 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 boom. So he's not even there. And I'm sitting there with all these buddies who are just looking at him like, just wait, we're gonna kill you. And you thought getting beat up, you know, by that priest was bad. We're gonna kill you. And Gina's like playing with me at the dining room table and giggling and whispering in my ear, and I'm just sitting there like, uh-oh. But I'm like in for a penny, in for a pound. So I'm like, okay, we've hit this amazing quick spark, and we realize we like each other. We realize she's not just playing me. We realize that this is going to be interesting. So we both go all in, right? So we start like right there in front of all these guys at the dining table, right? She's like got her hands in my pants, and I got my hand in her shirt, and everyone is like, like, guys are going to kill you. They're just like, and the girls who are there know Gina, and they're like giggling and just like whispering in each other's ears and just going like, anyway. So then we go to where the dance is going to be, and no matter what song is playing, Gina's just humping away at me. And then somewhere in between, she takes me back to the organ place, and we are both hot by, hot for whatever that song is. And so by the time the horn is blowing, we're putting clothes. I bring her. She's the last to get on the bus, and the whole time we're walking across this place, and she's just got her tongue in my mouth and just can't stop. And the seniors are just lining up to kill me. And you know, Gina gets on the bus, the door closed, the air brakes go off, and it starts to go away. And I feel this hand on my shoulder. I get grabbed, and it's the football coach. And he drags me away and takes me up to the headmaster's house, which is like up on the hill away from everything. And he puts me in there. And he said, they're going to kill you. You have to stay here for a while. So I stayed there a couple of days. Things seemed to cool down. He has talked to everyone where you can't kill Al. I'll talk to him, right? So anyway, I get twice as much punishment. I have not a second of free time. The bells are going off at 3 a.m, and so um, you know, this one Sunday I'm getting because I'm also I know Latin, so I'm one of the two go altar boys, right? And so I'm fell asleep. I should be woken up like 40 minutes ago, and I'm rushing to get down to the church, and it's cold. So I got my frock on, and I got my coat, and I'm trying to put the sweater on, and I got my arm in one side of my coat, and I got the sweater over my head. I don't see anything. I'm going down the stairs. I'm going up and down these stairs a zillion times. I don't even need to see them, and I'm not running, but I'm not holding the banister or anything. I'm not seeing anything. I'm trying to get all this shit on, and the senior that was supposed to be with Gina has been, it's now maybe 3 weeks. Everything's calmed down. No one wants to kill me, but he has been gonna get this guy, and he's the nastiest bully, really. And so he is going to clock me. He's got some kind of weapon. I don't know what it was because I couldn't see. But anyway, I'm trying to get all this stuff on. He's about to just knock my head off. And this ear kind of picks up. And I kind of turn like this. I got my arm like this. And he doesn't hit my arm, but he gets caught in my sweater. And I kind of turn around, and whatever that was that he had to hit me with gets stuck between my arm and the banister. And basically, there was a big open space. And we're up on the 3rd floor. And the geometry of it all flips him over me and I kind of slide down on a step, and it, whoop, it goes right over and goes 3 stories down, woo, and hits a table that's in the table, and he is gone. He's taken away in an ambulance, never to be seen again. And he's the biggest nasty bully, big senior hockey player, you know. You know. And so the rumor immediately gets that Al knows kung fu, and did this guy in. So the rest of those seniors and juniors said, okay, so we're not gonna, you know, we can't go on him, otherwise he's going to kill us, because this is the meanest, baddest guy, the biggest psychopath, the biggest bully. We were scared of him. We're seniors, and we were scared of him. And Al, this little shrimp of a guy, just takes him out. So the rest of the school year, I'm relatively safe, right, from the seniors and the juniors, right. And we had a thing called fagging. That's what it was called, fagging. And if you were a freshman, you had to do anything, sophomore. I mean, sophomores also got the bad treatment, but whatever the junior or senior said, you had to do. Give me a blowjob, you had to do it. So that's why they called it fagging. And so, um, and all of this is a metaphor, and don't believe a word I say. This is just a story. Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. Here we are, 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 30 seconds. And no one's watching, but we have 2 thumbs up. So how about some thumbs up, right? And I want to thank everyone for sending some money into the PayPal. How much juice do we have left? Oh, we're down to 7%. So I have to finish this up, right? I may have to leave right now until I tell you that I will pick this story up later, because the battery's about to go off, right? And there's a lot more to the story. So next time on, I'll pick it up, and that's like this a cliffhanger. So come on, guys, put in that PayPal. I'm going to be not just on the bop. I'm going to be on the high wire for the next, until April, right, until I come back. So let's see you put something in there, okay? Okay.